What if the tiredness you feel is not a failure of will, not laziness, not age catching up with you, but a quiet message from your body asking to be understood rather than fought? After 60, energy does not simply disappear, it changes its language. The body, wise and experienced, stops shouting and starts whispering. And many of us have never been taught how to listen. Inside the aging body, energy is no longer produced recklessly. Cells become more selective, more economical. Mitochondria, the tiny engines inside every cell, do not vanish with age, but they grow cautious. They respond deeply to sleep quality, nutrition, movement, and stress. When energy drops, it is often the body signaling imbalance, disrupted circadian rhythms, low-grade inflammation, muscles used less often than they were designed for. Fatigue becomes a form of communication, not a defect. Muscle loss, so subtle you may not notice it year by year, quietly alters how energy is spent. Muscle is not just for movement, it is a metabolic organ. As it declines, blood sugar control weakens, oxygen use becomes less efficient, and daily tasks begin to feel heavier than they once did. The body is not saying, "You are weak." It is saying, "I need to be reminded who I am." Hormones also change their rhythm. After 60, the signals that regulate energy, insulin, cortisol, thyroid hormones become more sensitive to lifestyle than ever before. Small disruptions now create large effects. Poor sleep echoes into the afternoon. Emotional stress settles into the afternoon. Emotional stress settles into the muscles. Energy drains not because the system is broken, but because it has become honest. Perhaps the most overlooked factor is how the nervous system ages. The constant urgency of earlier life fades, and the body resists living in permanent acceleration. This resistance is often misinterpreted as low energy, when in truth it is a demand for balance. The body begins to prioritize repair over performance, preservation over speed. It asks for slower mornings, intentional movement, deeper rest. And beneath all of this lies something deeply human. After decades of serving demands, the body begins to ask for care. Fatigue becomes an invitation to move with purpose, to nourish with respect, to rest without guilt. Energy after 60 is not meant to mimic youth. It is meant to be steady, meaningful, and aligned. When we listen carefully, the body is not telling us that life is shrinking. It is telling us to live differently and perhaps more wisely. Energy loss after 60 is far more than a simple decline in stamina or a minor inconvenience. It is a profound biological message from the body, one that requires attention and understanding rather than frustration or self-criticism. As we move past the age of 60, our energy systems begin to change in ways that are subtle yet significant. The body does not merely run out of energy like a battery. Rather, it becomes more deliberate in how it produces and allocates fuel to sustain vital functions. Each cell, each organ, each system communicates through the level of energy available, and the drop in vitality is often a reflection of adjustments happening deep within. Mitochondria, the microscopic engines inside our cells responsible for converting nutrients into usable energy, do not simply disappear, but their efficiency diminishes over time. This shift is not an indication of failure, but an evolutionary adaptation. The body becomes more conservative, prioritizing essential functions and signaling when resources are limited. These subtle messages can appear as afternoon fatigue, slowed responses, or a heavier feeling in the muscles during even ordinary tasks, yet they carry important information about what the body needs to maintain balance and function. It is also critical to understand that energy loss is influenced by a network of interconnected systems. Sleep cycles, hormone production, nutrient absorption, and cardiovascular efficiency all interact, and slight disturbances in any of these areas can amplify the sensation of fatigue. For example, poor sleep quality or disrupted circadian rhythms can reduce mitochondrial function, which in turn decreases cellular energy production and creates a ripple effect throughout the body. Similarly, low-grade inflammation, often imperceptible, increases with age and subtly drains energy by forcing the body to divert resources toward repair and defense rather than daily activity. Recognizing these signals as purposeful communication reframes the experience of fatigue from a personal shortcoming to an opportunity for attentive care. The body is essentially offering feedback: rest where rest is required, movement where it is beneficial, and nourishment where it is essential. Understanding the biological underpinnings of this energy shift allows seniors to make informed adjustments to diet, activity, and lifestyle that can help harmonize energy levels with the natural rhythms of the body. Rather than fighting against this change with unrealistic expectations, embracing the body's language can lead to a more sustainable and vibrant approach to life, where energy is not measured only by intensity, but by how effectively it is aligned with physiological needs, allowing for clarity, focus, and meaningful engagement in daily activities. Muscle and mitochondrial changes after 60 are at the heart of why energy feels different, and understanding them reveals how profoundly the body adapts over time. Muscles are not merely instruments of movement. They are dynamic, living tissues that play a central role in metabolism, energy production, and overall vitality. As we age, muscle mass gradually declines in a process called sarcopenia, often so slowly that it goes unnoticed until physical tasks feel heavier or endurance diminishes. This loss is not simply about strength, it directly affects how the body generates and uses energy. Muscles are metabolic powerhouses, storing glycogen and supporting glucose regulation, which are essential for sustained energy. As the quantity and quality of muscle fibers decline, energy storage and utilization become less efficient, meaning that ordinary activities require proportionally more effort than they did in earlier decades. This is compounded by the role of mitochondria, the microscopic engines within each muscle cell responsible for converting nutrients into usable energy in the form of ATP. With age, mitochondria can become less efficient, producing energy more slowly and generating more metabolic byproducts that can contribute to fatigue and cellular stress. Importantly, this is not a sign of irreversible decline, but a signal that the body is adapting to new priorities, balancing energy production with preservation and repair. Physical activity, particularly strength training and consistent movement, has a profound impact on both muscle and mitochondrial function, stimulating cellular repair processes, enhancing oxygen utilization, and improving metabolic efficiency. Even small, consistent exercises can preserve muscle fibers and maintain mitochondrial density, which directly supports higher energy levels and functional independence. Beyond movement, nutrition plays a critical role in maintaining these systems. Adequate protein intake, combined with micronutrients like B vitamins, magnesium, and coenzyme Q10, can support mitochondrial efficiency and muscle protein synthesis, helping the body sustain energy output despite the natural aging process. The interplay between muscles and mitochondria also affects how energy is felt throughout the day. When muscles are underused or mitochondria are stressed, fatigue is amplified and recovery slows. Conversely, when muscles are actively engaged and mitochondria remain robust, energy feels steady, even if it is not as intense as in youth. Understanding this relationship reframes the experience of low energy as a dynamic interaction between muscle, mitochondria, and lifestyle, rather than a simple consequence of aging. By paying attention to both muscle health and mitochondrial function, seniors can harness the body's adaptive intelligence, ensuring that energy is available where it matters most and that daily life remains both manageable and meaningful. Hormonal changes after 60 play a pivotal role in how energy is experienced, and understanding these shifts reveals why fatigue can feel more pronounced even when lifestyle habits remain consistent. Hormones are the body's chemical messengers, orchestrating countless processes from metabolism to mood, sleep, and the regulation of energy itself. As we age, the production and sensitivity of these hormones gradually change, creating ripple effects that influence nearly every aspect of physical and mental vitality. For example, insulin, which controls how cells take in glucose for energy, often becomes less efficient in older adults, even without overt diabetes. This means that energy from food is not delivered to muscles and organs as effectively, resulting in fluctuations that can manifest as mid-morning or afternoon fatigue. Similarly, thyroid hormones, which regulate the overall speed of metabolism, may decrease slightly, subtly lowering basal energy levels. These hormonal adjustments are not failures, but natural recalibrations that signal the body's prioritization of maintenance and repair over rapid activity. Cortisol, the stress hormone, also plays a nuanced role. In younger years, cortisol rises and falls in predictable cycles, supporting alertness, immunity, and metabolism. After 60, these rhythms can become disrupted by sleep changes, chronic stress, or inflammation, leading to prolonged periods of low energy or heightened fatigue that feel unearned and frustrating. Sex hormones, including estrogen and testosterone, which influence muscle mass, bone density, and energy metabolism, also decline gradually, affecting both physical vigor and emotional resilience. The combined impact of these hormonal shifts is profound. Small lifestyle changes like missing a meal, sleeping poorly, or experiencing emotional stress can now have a larger impact on perceived energy. Understanding this sensitivity allows for intentional adjustments that can counterbalance the natural changes. Strategic nutrition, balanced physical activity, stress management, and sleep optimization all interact with hormones to support more stable energy levels. For example, consistent protein intake and strength training help maintain muscle mass, which in turn improves glucose regulation and supports hormonal efficiency. Mindful routines that regulate stress and improve sleep can normalize cortisol rhythms, enhancing alertness and energy. By recognizing that energy after 60 is deeply intertwined with hormonal signals, seniors can approach fatigue not as an inevitable decline, but as an informative feedback system. Listening to these signals and aligning daily habits with the body's changing chemistry allows energy to become more reliable, more sustainable, and more reflective of a life lived in harmony with the body's natural rhythm, rather than in conflict with it. The nervous system undergoes profound, often invisible changes after 60, and these shifts play a central role in how energy is experienced throughout the day. Energy is not simply a function of muscles or calories. It is orchestrated by the nervous system, which integrates signals from the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves to coordinate movement, metabolism, and alertness. As we age, the nervous system becomes more attuned to balance and repair, subtly prioritizing conservation over rapid response or constant activity. This recalibration is not a flaw, but a sophisticated adaptation, designed to protect the body from overexertion and allow for sustained function over the long term. One of the most significant changes is in the autonomic nervous system, which controls involuntary functions like heart rate, digestion, and respiration. In older adults, the balance between the sympathetic fight-or-flight system and the parasympathetic rest-and-digest system shifts, often resulting in slower reactions to stress, a gentler heart rate response, and a greater need for recovery after physical or mental exertion. These changes directly influence how energy is felt. What once required minimal effort may now feel taxing, and periods of fatigue are more noticeable because the nervous system is signaling a need for restoration. Sensory processing also changes with age. Nerves transmit information about movement, pressure, temperature, and balance more slowly, requiring the brain to work harder to interpret and respond to stimuli. This increased cognitive load can create a subtle, pervasive sense of tiredness, even when outward activity seems minimal. At the same time, the nervous system regulates communication between the brain and muscles. Signals that once moved quickly and efficiently may slow slightly, causing tasks that were automatic to feel more effortful. This does not reflect weakness, but a recalibration of priorities. The nervous system increasingly values precision, safety, and energy conservation over speed. Sleep, too, is deeply affected by these neural shifts. The aging brain produces less deep sleep and experiences more fragmented cycles, which diminishes the restorative power of rest and contributes to daytime fatigue. Chronic low-level stress or emotional strain can amplify these effects, as the nervous system remains vigilant for threats and demands longer recovery periods. Recognizing that the nervous system is adapting rather than failing reframes energy loss as a form of communication. It is an invitation to align daily activity with the body's natural rhythms, to respect periods of rest, to move mindfully, and to cultivate practices that support neural efficiency. Understanding these processes allows energy to be experienced not as a relentless demand, but as a measured resource managed by a nervous system that increasingly seeks balance, repair, and sustainability. Fatigue after 60 can be understood not as a limitation, but as an invitation, a subtle form of communication from the body that encourages wiser movement, intentional rest, and mindful self-care. The experience of low energy is rarely random. It emerges from decades of accumulated patterns, environmental exposures, and lifestyle choices that influence how the body allocates resources. After 60, the body's priorities shift naturally. Repair, recovery, and maintenance become more critical than constant performance, and this shift is reflected in how energy is perceived. Fatigue is one of the clearest signals that these priorities are being expressed. When the body feels tired, it is asking for attention in ways that are both practical and philosophical. reminding us that sustainability matters more than intensity. Movement, once effortless, now requires thoughtful engagement. Gentle exercise, stretching, and strength training do not just build muscle. They send signals to the nervous system, cardiovascular system, and hormonal networks that energy is being used wisely. By responding to these signals with intentional action, the body adapts more effectively, producing energy in ways that are steady and meaningful. Rest, too, is no longer a passive act, but an active form of self-care. Sleep, naps, and periods of quiet reflection allow the nervous system to recalibrate, hormones to stabilize, and cells to repair. Ignoring these cues can amplify fatigue, reduce metabolic efficiency, and create a sense of chronic depletion, whereas honoring them supports vitality that feels deeper than mere physical strength. Nutrition also becomes a language through which the body communicates. Foods that stabilize blood sugar, reduce inflammation, and support mitochondrial function become allies in maintaining energy, while overprocessed or nutrient-poor foods can increase the sensation of tiredness, signaling that the body is responding to what it receives. Beyond the physiological dimension, fatigue after 60 is also an invitation to slow down, psychologically, to prioritize activities that carry meaning and let go of those that drain unnecessarily. Mental and emotional energy are as important as physical reserves, and listening to these signals allows the mind and body to align more harmoniously. Each moment of low energy can be reframed as guidance to move purposefully, nourish thoughtfully, rest fully, and engage with life intentionally. In this way, fatigue transforms from a source of frustration into a compass for living more effectively, offering insight into how energy can be preserved, directed, and experienced as a resource that is steady, manageable, and deeply aligned with the body's natural rhythms rather than fleeting or exhausting.